All right, cool. Well, let's get started here. Welcome everyone to Loot Town Square number, 23, 22 or 23. Really excited about this call. We have Tim Shell. I think the main focus of the call is going to be on this, what you can see on the screen now, the Gitcoin ecosystem round for the Lootverse that went to a proposal last week and reached quorum. So really excited about kind of what Tim Shell is going to share here, and then we'll get into some other projects or open mic. Whoever's on the call and wants to share. People that signed up, we had the tabletop for loot. So a major update there from Stellaris. Kip Engine, who's been on the, who signed up a few weeks ago, so I'm not sure if they're...
Here.
You're here.
I'm here. Yeah.
Amiro, awesome. So we can get to you today. Standard Combo's got a few things with more loot and Lootverse MMO. 1337 wants to present about the Minstrel, which is CC0 songs. And then Michael Joseph with Meta ID. And then we'll just open it up like we always do to show and tell, question and answers, etc. So with that, let's get right into it. Tim Shell.
Sweet. No promises on that long agenda, too. Depending on how long this ecosystem round stuff takes, we may not get to everything on that list, but we'll be here again next week, as always. But GM, everybody, this is super exciting. We're now, 9 months into Loot, and Loot has just been this incredible experiment. Somebody called it a massively multiplayer, collaborative world-building experiment, which I just loved. I think that might have been 3 way if we coined that phrase. The reason I call that out is that when we talk about collaboration, what's been so pure and amazing about Loot is that Loot has no team, and Loot has no budget, and Loot has no funding, and Loot has no investors, and Loot has no roadmap. We are the team. We are the ones building the roadmap. We as a community, collectively and collaboratively, are the ones who are sort of putting together the dream of Loot just through our actions, every day, every week, every month. And we've mostly been doing that in a totally self-sustaining, kind of independent way, in that everything has been done outside of Loot. Like Loot itself, unlike every other NFT project that's ever existed, is relying on only the outside community to create the Lootverse. Meaning, like, Loot itself hasn't funded anything. There was one really small retroactive, public goods grant, I think, way back in the day. But Loot itself, again, doesn't have this economic engine that's investing in Loot, driving Loot forward, pushing Loot forward. We are the ones doing that. And why I'm excited and starting there is that this is the first time where we as a community are taking a more coordinated collective action to advance the Lootverse ourselves. So instead of just hoping and watching every week where new people show up at the town squares and work on projects around Loot, which really is the beauty and magic of Loot. But in addition to that, and to help fuel that and encourage builders who are maybe on the edges, or encourage builders who are in the heart of this but maybe could use more support, I made a proposal a couple weeks ago, sort of more to an inner circle of Loot holders to make sure that everyone was cool with this idea, and then started to collaborate with Gitcoin, which is a pretty incredible foundation. We'll get into what Gitcoin is in a second, to set up essentially the first Lootverse ecosystem grants round, where we're taking ETH from the Loot treasury, which is a pretty small treasury. It's just the small royalties that have been coming in from Loot sales. But it's a DAO treasury, and it's steered by the Loot holders, and it's governed by the holders of the 8,000 OG Loot bags. The treasury has, I think, 230 ETH or something in that. And what I proposed, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing here, is a model through which we as a collective community take that treasury and put it to work with really no strings attached ecosystem grants to builders and creators and writers and artists and people who want to share in this collective dream with us to take a chunk of that treasury. We're starting with a not insignificant chunk, but not a huge chunk. It's a 75 ETH grant, and it goes towards this ecosystem round, where the idea is that the purpose of this ETH is to use as a matching pool to go towards Lootverse public goods, to go towards early stage Lootverse projects and builders who are maybe deep in the weeds but could use some more fuel for whatever, for marketing, for hiring, for dev, for just making space in their own life and their own time to work on this stuff. And 3, to people who are bringing the Lootverse to life with stories and multimedia, whether that's narrative stories, whether that's Genesis scroll stuff that we've been having a ton of fun with, whether that's music, whether that's art, all that stuff fits into here. We started to put out a list of some things that make sense in terms of like grant proposals and activities and projects that fit that criteria. But this is wide open. Anybody can make a proposal, anybody can make a suggestion or a submission, and anybody, whether you're a loot holder or not, can participate in this crazy collaborative world-building experiment. So again, TLDR, goal of this ecosystem round is to take a chunk of the loot treasury, put it into a big pool managed by Gitcoin, and again, I'll talk about some of the mechanics of how Gitcoin works. And we may even have a couple of the leaders from Gitcoin on the call here today too, so they can speak to it as well. But put this 75 ETH into a Gitcoin ecosystem round specifically to the Lootverse, tee up a bunch of proposals, and then as a community, we vote for where we want that ETH to be allocated. It's not like Kickstarter per se, where people are asking for a certain minimum threshold. It's surely not an investment platform. It's purely no strings attached grants, almost like public goods grants. Because the Lootverse is so wide open and public domain and open source, I sometimes feel like loot itself is almost like a public good for Ethereum. That loot shows people a different side of this world, that it's not always just DeFi. It's surely not always just crazy monkey pictures, though all of us love those monkey pictures sometimes. But that loot shows that Ethereum can be a utility, and Ethereum can be sort of a foundation for world building and fiction and narrative media and on-chain gaming and so many more things that get me excited and are really why I'm spending so much time in this space. As you probably know, I'm not like a DeFi guy. I'm a sci-fantasy geek. I'm a gamer. I'm a reader. I'm a writer, movement builder. And so this, to me, feels like this perfect moment for Loot to be able to sort of showcase in a really positive way the builders and the creators and the writers and the people who are working together as a community to bring this thing to life. So what I wanted to do with this call today was just to share that news with everyone. This vote passed, officially passed. We passed the quorum. Quorum was only 155 loot bag votes. We doubled that or more. And then do 2 things today. One, I wanted to talk through getting some help. I would love somebody to be able to help me make this thing happen. The Gitcoin team is going to help a bit. Yeah, I see a Zeem on here. Help a bit with some administrative stuff, and obviously the Gitcoin platform itself is like the functional platform that powers this. But I think the biggest thing is like getting the word out and doing some marketing and just making this round successful. Helping get proposals, helping get builders aware of the fact that this exists, helping builders and creators create their proposals and do that in a lightweight way that's not too heavy. And then just kind of getting the word out generally. So first chunk, I wanted to just kind of do like a raise your hand across the board if you're on the call, or do it with me in DMs later. I'm just calling out that like I need help. I'm working on this loot universe the same as Andrew out of just fun and love for it. There's no incentives for us. We're just doing it because we believe in this vision and believe in the power of loot as a public good. And so we're putting tons of time, probably 1,000 hours into loot so far. But loot, I think, needs more. And so having a community be able to raise their hands and say, yeah, we can help with marketing, we can help with encouraging submissions and proposals, even just basic social media stuff. Some support would be super powerful here. So I'd put it in the category of like content support and marketing support and other ideas, we can open the mic in a second and kind of go around the horn with people's ideas about what we all can do to help make this ecosystem grants round more successful. And then the second thing that I was hoping to talk about on this call is actually like a list of requests that we as a community think would be important for us to give grants to. Almost like requests for proposals, like, hey, we as the Loot community, we really want a new Lootverse-wide subgraph, or we want a new and improved Loot stats contract, or we're really excited about the Loot distillation contract. And so I put in a list of some things here, which is not a holistic list, but I thought we could do almost like an open brainstorm or at least open discussion about, with this ecosystem grants round happening, not only will people show up and say, hey, raise my hand, here's what I'm working on, I'd like a little bit of support and acknowledgement, but also maybe we as a community can say, we're close to the sun, we know exactly what's happening here, and here's the kind of stuff that we need. As builders, as creators, as participants in this crazy experiment, this is the type of stuff that if somebody could show up and build a X, create a Y, launch a Z, that would help us, and that would help bring the universe to life, and that would help us collectively as builders. So keep that in mind, and let's do open mic on that. Actually, you know what? Why don't we start there? Once we do a list of like the stuff that we're hoping for, then we can pop back up to like who can help. Kind of like whatever. You get the point. So let's start with the what, and then we can go to the who. And open mic too, just for reactions and thoughts. I've been talking here, and you can tell I'm super excited about it because I think this could be a turning point for Loot, or at least an experiment in just how a purely decentralized community with no team and no funding gets stuff done. This Gitcoin model could be incredibly powerful for it. But yeah, let me open the mic. Thoughts, reactions, plus ones, feedback, etc., and then we can do requests from the community.
I think this is great. This is more like a logistics question, but as far as I'm aware, Gitcoin does like rounds of grants, right? So like, would we basically be doing like periods of like people can apply during one round, and then some projects get funded, and then a round ends, and then there's a future round?
Yep. Yeah, this next round launches June 8th, which is 6 days from now. Proposals are open until June 15th, if I'm right about that, the Zeme. For whatever reason, I can't find the rounds on the website here, but there are rounds somewhere.
It's going to be June 8th to June 23rd. We do ask that everyone submit by June 15th or June 16th. Yeah, just so earlier the better, honestly, just so we're able to get people's things like pushed through and put onto the site. But yeah, the next round starts on June 8th, and then GR15, which is the next round, is going to be in the second week of September. And then we'll do another one in December as well.
Awesome. And then, I might have missed this because I was a few minutes late, but once we create this, I guess who's eligible to like vote on where the grant goes?
Yeah, so this is the magic of the way Gitcoin works. And Azim, I have a feeling this community is going to ask a bunch of kind of like technical gotcha questions around, can the system be hacked? So I'll leave those to you. But let me just explain the TLDR of how this works, and then we can go from there. That the way this is set up is that everybody makes their grant proposals, and usually these are set up more like, I'm working on something, whether I get a grant or not, but I would love some support. So it's not like Kickstarter of like, if we raise 25K, we'll launch this product and sell it to you. It's more like, hey, this is something I'm working on, and I'd love some like acknowledgement and support. So people create these proposals. Each of these proposals are a grant proposal that sort of describes the project. The Gitcoin site's pretty slow, so you gotta just bear with it. But it describes the project. It describes kind of the usage of what the grant would be for, the team, the purpose, etc. And then it's open for anyone to donate to. So, yeah, I guess I can't get this to load up. But the idea here is that everybody donates here. So these are individual people donating to this project, donating 0.01 ETH, $10, $15, $20, $1, $1,000, whatever. And then there's a quadratic funding model. So essentially what you're doing is voting with your grants. And the quadratic funding model says, based on all the people across the ecosystem, both ourselves as individuals in the Lootverse, but also like anybody in Ethereum who believes in this world, who believes in the power of loot the way that I'm talking about, believes in the importance of loot to help bring Ethereum itself, or bring a new pillar or a new use case for Ethereum to life. Anybody can donate to these, and then by donating to these, the synthesis of all those individual donations sums back up to a quadratic funding model, which I think is linked somewhere. And showing the actual example of quadratic funding is probably helpful. Yeah, here. I'll just use Google. For whatever reason, that website doesn't like me. So I'll actually show like a real specific example. So if the Lootverse is putting up whatever $200,000 or $150,000, and there's 4 projects, the idea here is that I'm going to show an example, Azim, and you can jump in too. No, this website's not working for me either. Oh, there it goes. Sorry. So if there were 4 projects and there were donations that looked like this, each one of these things that I'm showing is like an individual donation from a person. So imagine there were 4 projects. Project 1 got one person donated $10. One person donated $10 to Proposal 2. 5 people donated $100 to Grant 3, but then a ton of people donated $43 to Grant 4. The way quadratic funding works is it says it splits up this $150,000 and it weights the number of votes more than it weights the amount raised. So in this case, that $150,000 would be matched $100,000 to grant number 4. Even though it didn't raise as much from the individual contributors, it just had far more individual contributors contributing to it. And so the quadratic funding model, I forget how to describe the equation, but it's like the square root of, well, it's this crazy equation here. But the functional outcome is that it weights the number of contributors more than the amount contributed. And it literally could be this math. So if individuals just donate, $1 here and there, you're sort of just donating, or you're sort of like voting with your donation. And the more people donate, the more that project gets a grant pool, or like a match from the grant pool. That's the first time I tried to explain it out loud, so that was a kind of messy explanation. But questions on that, or anybody who's more familiar with it, feel free to talk about it. Yeah, Azim, why don't you hop in and you can answer some of these questions?
Honestly, you did great there. I'm going to have to jump to a call, by the way, in 7 minutes, but I'm actually really liking this and want to make sure that anyone that has any questions, feel free to DM me, friend request me, whatever it is. I think that there's so much potential here. I know one of the first questions going to be, what if someone's just overly popular and gets all of the votes? That's usually one of the questions we get. We usually do tend to set a cap at which is the max amount they can end up getting from it, so that things can be distributed a bit more equally. And then the other one is, what if people just make $1,000 $1 accounts and just vote for themselves 1,000 times? We do actually have a fraud defense team that has been working at civil attacks, and being that this is the 14th round that we've been doing this, we've actually been quite successful at making sure that doesn't end up becoming a problem with us, and it hasn't been in the past, but I welcome any other questions as well.
Somebody had asked a question of what if someone says, hey, I want to quit my job for 3 months and work on something, but for me to do that, I would need $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever number, and then they only end up raising $2,000. How do they deal with the fact that they're in kind of a hard spot there? Or how would you answer that question or deal with that situation?
I would not suggest that person quit their job until they would know they'd be getting let's say $5,000. But unlike Kickstarter, where let's say you needed $5,000, and if you don't raise the $5,000, you don't get any of the money, that's not the case with us. You could be saying, I need to raise $5K, and then you end up raising 2K, you will still get that 2K, as opposed to the Kickstarter model where because you didn't hit your goal, you get nothing.
That's what I'm saying, though, Zim. That's the really difficult position that puts them in, because now it's almost like they made a promise to the community to work on something, but they didn't get to their minimum threshold, and so they're in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the unique things here. I don't honestly at the moment, and I'll speak to the team more about how we do that, but don't honestly have...
Yeah, that briefly gets to my question, which is, do you have any suggestions on how people should kind of like structure their grant proposals? Is there like a certain kind of way of structuring like what you request or what you kind of promise, or that like works better than others?
Not necessarily. The interesting thing here is this is very much an experiment. Typically we've done this with things that are like more in the DeFi space, and there's more specifics on how they want to go about it because people are looking to build Uniswap or Wallet Connect or Ether.js or something like that. And a lot of times they might even have funding, and this is just a way for them to get additional funding. But being that we're doing it in this way with a project that's like Loot, decentralized the way Loot is, it's definitely bringing unique challenges, which is why we're like, hey, any help we can get, any promotion we can get, any marketing we can get, because we want to make sure that this actually gets to eat in the hands of the people who are working on it and can help really expand this universe.
I think maybe I'll answer my own question then, Azim, which is that the proposals people make should be, hey, I'm going to work on something regardless of whether I get any grant here. So I'm committed to working on something, and I have a model that I intend I'll hopefully make money on, or whatever. Like, I'm going to work on this. And then the grant is a bonus on top of it, which sort of undermines the idea of doing pure public goods. But whatever, like, let's leave that aside for now. I would love some support on answering this question, Azim, at some point, because it's not really specific to Loot. It's more just in general to all your ecosystem rounds. So I'm sure there's an answer to it. But I think the biggest one is probably more like, just don't, when you put in a grant, don't promise something that you're going to do based on a minimum, because there's no way to set a minimum. So it's more just like, hey, I'm going to work on something, and the more grants I get, maybe the more time I'll spend on this, but not a binary black and white.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm going to get an answer for you on that and speak to the team about that.
And the other thing to call out too for the community is that it's not just Loot ourselves, like voting with our own wallets. There are a ton of other people who are participating in the Gitcoin ecosystem who are huge supporters of just the growth and the success of Ethereum overall, and of on-chain gaming overall, and on-chain media overall. And so this is a really cool opportunity for us to reach out kind of beyond the Loot community directly, and have other people vote with their wallets as well. TBD, in terms of like the final amount of funding here, at minimum, it's this 75 ETH plus the little bit that the community might donate directly. But the maximum is unknown, meaning that like if people donate and give grants to this stuff individually, that's all additive on top of this 50. Or sorry, on top of this 75.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like Gitcoin mechanic stuff. I do want to get to this list that I was going to share here, which is like ideas of stuff that we as a community would like help with, which is like the Quest board is an amazing public good that Max is driving. Loot Foundation that I've been spending a ton of time on. I would love grant support to be able to get someone else to help with this other than just me doing it for free. A Lootverse-wide subgraph. I know Tenox has been working on that. That's really powerful. Tabletop, the Rift, the XP system, the distillation contract. I have these here. But anybody seeing this list, maybe open mic, does anyone have ideas of stuff that you either want to call out that you personally are working on that we should add to this sort of list of stubs, or just stuff that you as a builder or creator or community member would love to see?
Guys, so I just a random thought about what I've seen lately in the CC0 space, and I think could benefit the Loot community is the main thing in the CC0 space is that it's so easy to integrate each PFP collection into one world and another. And something with loot is that we don't really have something to integrate into other other metaverse or anything. And I don't know. I just think it could be very beneficial to have a face to put in front of loot, so that any project could just integrate loot or do something with loot. I don't know. I really like what Hyperloot have been doing. I know we have a few teams working on metaverses, and I don't know. Maybe we could have many more teams working on I don't know. Yeah, a face to put on top on loot.
Hey, Dennis, I don't know if you know, or but the next successor to Rift is basically just the intent to do exactly that. Just I call it HyperXP, which is essentially a experience protocol to connect all these different CC0 projects into sort of one shared universe, and people can use that however they want. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
I think I captured that one, DSI. I wasn't sure because you talked about like a big idea and then a specific thing, but I think you were saying that to help with the like unifying things together, that having a character /PFP /faces approach to loot would be helpful. Sorry if I'm mincing that. Maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, no, that's correct. Yeah, that was my thought.
Cool.
I probably have one thing to say about Ego. Like we are pretty, important infrastructure, I guess, after we launch. We're lucky to secure like kind of sponsor for development, but I guess one of the problem we face is that we don't have like someone who's sitting in the community answering all the questions, and I guess that's one of the problems that's faced by a lot of the projects in Loot as well. So if there's like community initiative that we can have a few persons team, basically, kind of moderating the community for our projects, I guess that would be a great team, who's worth the funding from this community grants. So probably like a community moderation team, etc., moderation down for the loopers.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. I had this captured into like Loot Town Squares, community organizing, tools, Discord UX, and that's just been really Andrew and I driving that for the past 9 months, but having somebody else actually get like an incentive to do that would be cool, because that's probably not sustainable. And I think you're saying to do that beyond Loot, but also for like the wider Lootverse communities, if I'm hearing you right?
Yeah, so that's, the reason I say that is because I found this Bitcoin grants kind of aligns with what Ego is trying to do. It's trying to provide the financial support for a lot of the projects out there. So, since this is one of the problems we face, I guess, it can be pretty helpful for the overall Lootverse as well.
Cool. What else do people want to add to the list here?
I think, this is Andrew. I think it probably falls under a few buckets here, like a update website and, Discord moderation, UX, but some like, I don't know, coming up with some like onboarding materials or setup. Like I know a lot of people come into the Discord and still are like, where do I start? And so just really like, yeah, I think that falls under the community moderation maybe, but really helping, set up kind of a clear system for newcomers. That's, basics, the very simple basics, kind of what's going on in the world, the featured builders, and like ideas for how people can plug in.
Yep, great idea.
Yeah, I love that. On that vein as well, Raul and I are looking to submit to
to take Call the Banners to the next level that integrates some of the Loot First NFTs and make it a very low, if not no stakes, sort of quarterly, fun hangout thing to do that just brings together all the projects, and you're not spending money, you're not doing anything, but other than just having some fun and causing some chaos in a fairly simple game.
Yeah, I love that banners. Like, yeah, we think about like, basically this call every Thursday is like kind of our only, for the entire Lootverse, it's kind of our only like kind of heartbeat kind of event, I guess. But like creating more of those, with things like Call the Banners, or I know like Stellaris, and what he talks about with this tabletop RPG, like things like that. Are important, but also fun. And just like, I don't know, coming up with more ideas for just getting the community together more frequently would be pretty great.
Yeah, super.
Two things I'd like to add. One would be on the topic of marketplaces. Just trying to take more autonomy of the loot exchange. I think, that team did a great job deploying that, but, it does require maintenance, right? And, we now have a lot more loot projects that could potentially be added to like a loot exchange. We have realms. I think the more that we can have one unified place for people to go and trade, I think that's a big value add to the whole ecosystem, from a royalty capture, from a user experience. There's a lot of hidden traits that aren't exposed through OpenSea, getting those added is difficult. So I think marketplace improvements or loot exchange V2, as you noted, I think that's a great one. And then the other one I'd like to add is kind of already in this list, but it's an expansion of that, and so it's the loot fountain. I think as it's written there now, it's mostly focused on a bridge to StarkNet, and I think that maybe we want to figure out a way to generalize that into bridges to other roll-ups, right? So like, the treasure community has set up a really big outpost on Arbitrum, and so there's a lot of activity there. A lot of people that are into gaming and NFTs are over there. So if we had a bridge to, bridge loot bags over there, that might open up new opportunities, right? Or optimism, right? So I think, I don't know how to structure that in terms of Gitcoin grants, because all of those would be relatively large investments of time. But perhaps if we have a team that's thinking about this not from how do we implement this for this one particular roll-up, but generalize it so we can use it to just open up the Lootverse to all these roll-ups, I think that might increase the resilience of Loot as a project, because it has all of these other roll-ups it could go to and help get seeded. That's it for me.
Sweet. And yeah, Lou here, you have access to this Gitcoin too, or Gitbook, so you can pop in and edit and add stuff as we go. We can wrap this part, and we can also do this async in general or in DMs as well. But the reason I wanted to make this list is so that as we do some marketing and as we do just outreach to the community and the wider world, just to be able to say like, hey, here's some of the topics that the Lootverse would love to support. Being able to put out almost like an unofficial RFP type list, I think it could be helpful. Any other final thoughts to add to this list, or just quick fire ideas to throw on the list here? Okay, we can come back to it. Let's go up to the top. So this is obviously going to take a bunch of work, and I've already put a bunch of work into this, and we as a community kind of put in our work by showing up every week. But I could definitely use some help in making this successful. And honestly, the biggest thing is just marketing. I do my best with my own handle, and for whatever reason, we've been trepidatious about using the Loot Project Twitter handle to do anything other than retweet. But this might be a good opportunity for us to change that and actually help Loot itself find a voice, and help Loot through its own Twitter find a voice and have an opinion and have a point of view, and start to share some like marketing strategy or marketing things and stories and exciting nuggets and just stuff happening beyond just retweeting. So I'd say the biggest thing I need help with is marketing here, to get the word out to people to encourage submissions and proposals. General marketing on just bringing attention and excitement to the round itself, and then we're encouraging donations once the round is live, not for fundraising, but mostly just for like voting, just so that people are aware of it and they can vote with their wallets by participating in the Gitcoin grants themselves. I'm sure there's other stuff that has to be done, like content creation and probably some multimedia to help with this. But I think a lot of it's just marketing and getting the word out. I'm curious if anybody wants to raise their hand to help here. I know it's a free and thankless job, so I'm asking you to do that free and thankless job with me, but I would love some support.
I'm happy to tweet out and do whatever I can to encourage people to submit things.
Cool, we can make like a little thread maybe about this too.
Yeah, one tweet is not going to be enough, but I humbly submitted one here at the top of the call. I love what we're doing with the grants program, and I think everybody in the community should be encouraging builders to take advantage of it and submit the best proposals and see where they can get support. I'll continue to do that.
Cool. I'm just going to write some names down, and I'll start a thread that's like sort of getting the word out. Maybe I'll start a channel that's like administrating this ecosystem grants thing. But there's a definition of liquid team. Again, there is no Loot team. Nobody controls Loot, so we're just doing our best to put people in the same rooms and coordinate in a decentralized way.
Yeah, I'll absolutely tweet the hell out of it.
Tim Shell, I haven't sent a newsletter in a while, but I would love to get that up and running and dedicate an issue to this. There's still like 1,300 subscribers, 1,350. So can start beating the drum using that.
Cool. Did anybody have any like PR, for lack of a better word, experience in terms of like getting the word out beyond just Twitter and Discord?
Yeah, probably have some channels on news media when it comes to releasing PRs. And I previously wrote like an article about the Metaverse, but it was more like in the Chinese version. Obviously, I'll try to translate it, and then I guess that would go very well with this Gitcoin grants. So obviously, it will help to spread the words around media channels as much as we can, and then hopefully we'll bring some institutional attention to what people are building here, and then obviously. Again, echoing to the previous statement that this thing is super important. It's a very important chance for the loopers to be seen by the outer world, just outside the loopers. And then once the grant is live, I believe all of the projects out there, you will be reached out by people who's interested to contribute to their personal talent, as well as there will be a bunch of VC analysts looking for projects out there. Actually, the Gitcoin grants is one of the important deal sourcing channel for us as well. So, if you have a project out there, it's definitely worth to put in some serious effort to make a good proposal, and then, you'll get the attention you want.
So, anybody want to raise their hand to help out with PR stuff, blogger outreach stuff, writing content type stuff?
Do we have a list of bloggers or sort of, for lack of a better word, influencers in the space that we think would be good to reach out to? I'm happy to reach out. I just don't have a list, essentially. So if we have one, that makes it easy. If not, then creating the list will just take some time.
My manager has been compiling some stuff like that for Gripner. And I can ask her what she might have on hand that would be most relevant and useful here. Once I get over that list to y'all, whatever shape or form it is, we can start to think through what the messaging is and why might want to cover it, but it seems obvious to me why they would. 75 ETH is a decent chunk of change to be giving to builders to support creativity on these projects. But nailing the angle on the why they need to care is probably a critical job to be done on top of getting the list itself. So let me check in with Lisa and see what she has for us, and there we go.
Cool. Okay, well, we talked mostly about marketing there, but does anybody else have any thoughts about what we can do to make this more successful?
Yeah, I have one thing. Go ahead. Well, I was just saying, I was putting in the chat that we try to coordinate like some sort of collection release with this, with all the proceeds going to the grants. And that could be like some sort of more direct way for the deacons to buy into it and support a good cause.
One follow-up question I had is this 75 ETH like that we're that's being put forward just for this next round? Like, is this something that we plan on doing sort of regularly?
Yeah, this 75 ETH is just going to this round, and this round, what did we say? It was
like June 8th to the 23rd or something like that.
Yeah, so this is a 1 month round. Yeah, here you go, June 8th to 23rd, 2 week round. And if it works, and I think if people dig it and engage, and there are proposals and there are community grants given out and things, then I'd say absolutely this is a model, and we could almost just copy and paste the proposal I made here and say, let's do another one, and we can debate what the amount should be. But Loot doesn't have a revenue model, and Loot doesn't have any investors or any mechanism to earn any money, which is, I think, maybe a cool idea that we should talk about, or that I've been thinking about as well. But Loot does have essentially a fixed treasury. It has 240 ETH total. It'll have 170 ETH after the 75 gets pulled out of it, and it's not really being replenished. It's only replenished through like the trickle of royalties that come in every day. But honestly, if we could use this whole 240 ETH to advance the Lootverse, I'd be a huge fan of using it now as opposed to sitting on it. It's sat unused for 9 months, and this feels like a good first use for it. So if it works, TLDR, I would love to do it again. People also had some ideas about doing a prop house. Noun's prop house is a pretty cool model. So if for some reason this Gitcoin model doesn't work, a Loot prop house could be another approach to this.
Are there any, you can excuse this as like forks the conversation in the wrong direction, but are there any like ways that the treasury can be like continually like added to? Maybe like some sort of like cultural practice of people just adding some small percentage of their royalties back into the treasury, or I'm not sure, because it seems like through this I'm realizing like how extraordinarily important and useful that kind of like public goods for paying creators to actually have like a means of making money in this ecosystem is. So I'm curious.
Yeah, Luke's been really funny in that like it's the biggest project with the smallest treasury. And that's kind of been the like beauty of Loot in some ways. If you look at the list, I think Loot is now like number 12 largest NFT project in the history of NFTs, but has a treasury the size of like what it would cost to open up a bagel store. And it has kind of been the beauty of Loot, because what it's meant is that everybody on this call and all the builders and all the people who are building, from Hyperloot to Loot Explorers to Genesis Project to Crypts and Caverns, Realms, fill in the blank, the Crypt, have to come up with sustainable models for funding themselves. But But what it does leave on the ground is the idea of public goods, and it leaves it up to just the goodness and the kindness of people's hearts to come in and spend time on it. So it is a balance. I don't think it's necessarily required to have like a not centralized, but a coordinated group who can fund ecosystem grants like this. But I also can't imagine that it's going to hurt. Like us giving out grants to people who are building important and valuable projects who are working to help advance the Lootverse, I have to imagine it's only going to help. So yeah, I mean, I have some ideas too around like a more sustainable model for loot funding to bring revenue back into the loot treasury. You're probably right that forks this combo, so maybe we should save that for another one or do that with a smaller group. But yeah, I have some ideas and definitely agree with that some model, there's a million models to drive revenue and create value that can be then invested in the ecosystem. Loot has none of those models, so we could experiment with some of those. But not up to me. I mean, that's the other thing is this is wide open. Like anybody can do anything. So if anyone has a good idea, go for it. Or if any of the builders want to donate stuff to the loot treasury, I guess we don't even really have a loot treasury that could be donated to, at least not beyond ERC20s. But yeah, let's save that for another conversation.
Wicked.
Cool. I do think that's been a feature, not a bug of Loot. Just to put a pin in that, though, it's a feature that Loot was like no economic incentives to work inside of Loot, and so it was purely about building this community of people who believed in this dream together. But now that we've like crystallized that dream and really made sense of like what is this thing we're building, and realized hey, there are some public goods here that would support this ecosystem. It probably would be, or hopefully not probably, it hopefully will be helpful that this ecosystem grants round helps advance some of those projects. And there's some people that call directly. I mean, Dude, Banners, others here who already are doing things that are public goods for the Lootverse, bringing Lootverse to life, creating cross Lootverse community opportunities and the XP leaderboard stuff. So it's going to keep happening, but if we can fuel it with this and advance it with this, A+. I think we can probably move off of this. We can do this in an async way, just over Discord. I'll start a channel where we can talk about like a contributors channel to this project to just help out with essentially marketing and some coordination and some content creation. But this is wide open, and just like everything Loot, we're putting out a dream into the world, and we're hoping that people come find us and come raise their hand and say, I'm here to build with you. It's wide open. You don't have to be a Loot holder to make a proposal. Anybody can make a proposal. In terms of like buttons to click to actually do it, I think it's literally as simple as signing into Gitcoin, making a proposal, and tagging yourself with the Lootverse tag, and then it goes into a review. There's actually there is a doc I'll share. It goes into a review process to just make sure that it kind of like meets the criteria of what the Lootverse ecosystem round's about, and then it gets approved. And then once it's up there, starting June 8th, everybody can start donating to it. Okay, maybe back to you, Andrew, because I know there was other stuff on that list.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see Amiro. I think you've been signed up for a while. On that list, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is just a quick intro to my team and myself, and then we can also kind of share a screen maybe. How's that sound?
Cool.
So good. Just give me a minute. Can you see my presentation?
No, not yet.
let me know when the screen's showing. Should see some slides. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Super.
There it is.
Excellent. All right. So yeah, I'm here with Erica. So my name's Amir. I'm CEO of Keep Engine, and we are building the first game engine for the Metaverse. We'll explain a bit more what that's about. So I'm here with Erica, our CTO, and Mohsin, who's our blockchain lead. So we're building out the complete infrastructure for making 3D experiences, games, and the assets for those games in a super easy and accessible way. So like Tim mentioned earlier about the Lootverse being like a massively multiplayer, collaborative world-building experiment, what we're doing is we're building basically pretty much the same thing, but the tools we're building that out in a 3D way. So it's an all-inclusive system. So this game engine is built entirely in WebAssembly. It's for the next generation of web-based performance, and it covers everything from including server infrastructure to blockchain-based resource management. And it allows the user to build in real time, straight on the web. You can have fully interactive 3D spaces, games, and even large-scale 3D open worlds. And these environments, as soon as you build them, they're accessible on any device, including on VR headsets such as Oculus. And we've had a lot of fun just playing around with this, with some of the designs we made on Oculus. And we want to empower a creator economy, kind of like the TikTok of the Metaverse. And by the way, KIP stands for Knowledge is Power. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about what the Metaverse is, but everybody's got different opinions. But I think everybody on this call would probably agree that the way that Meta and some of the centralized proponents of building out the Metaverse, it's not going to be the right way. We want to see something that is very open. We want to see that something that is, our vision of the Metaverse is one that is super open, that is accessible by all people, and which is going to be scalable. So, we've already got, a lot of Metaverse projects out there, but they were using technologies that were never made for the Metaverse. So it has to be a bottoms-up approach. And I think that's also the way that the Loot community have been doing things, in a very much a bottoms-up approach. Everybody's kind of, the incentive is on the community itself to try and build this project out in terms of Loot, the lore, everything. And similarly, I think when it comes to the technology that is going to power some of the interesting games and experiences, has to be bottoms up as well. So this infrastructure is something we're building out that includes even the actual language for the Metaverse, and we'll get to that in a bit. But the Web3 Metaverse should be scalable, should always be on, constantly evolving virtual worlds where people can build, modify, and interact with objects and with each other in real time. So we need to remove all the barriers to entry and all the pain points for building, so we can have that accessibility, and so that anyone with any device can access it and create. So it needs to be super easy for people to build on, and this is what we're doing right now. So it's, we're building the Metaverse in terms of like these 3D experiences, but the entire infrastructure, the full stack, is what we're kind of working on. And you don't have to be a highly skilled developer. You could even be somebody who has very minimum idea of creating things in 3D, and that's totally fine. So the idea is that people will be able to drag and drop objects. Other people might be able to use their more sophisticated skills to create them. But it's like a community-based, building platform where anyone can create anything from furniture, clothing, through to sophisticated games and all the assets needed to build these sort of experiences. Now, I'm still learning about the Loot community and how the Loot system works, but I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people to start building out the spaces, for example, for realms, for crypts, caverns, dungeons, and also, of course, the loot items themselves and the loot bags. There's just so much that could be done on this in a totally open environment, basically. And the idea is, our vision is to empower the TikTok of the Metaverse. And of course, having it highly open, interoperable, and interactive, so anyone can share content anywhere. Composable, interactive assets in a self-sustainable economy. So all this creativity, interaction, we want to kind of empower that, so you can quickly share things easily with a URL, So people don't have to download anything just to get on. We will get onto this in a bit. I'm going to rush through the problems. So basically, current game engines can't power the Web3 metaverse. What I mean here is that game engines, for example, when I mention game engines, you're probably thinking Unreal, probably thinking Unity. Those are great for creating, killer AAA standard games that are on your PlayStation 5, that are on Xbox, and that have great multiplayer. But they're not made for open, persistent experiences with the Web3 values that we just mentioned. And interoperability and ownership is also hindered by the technology and a lack of standards. So you need to have a standard, and we'll get to this in a bit as well, which is almost like when you build the web, you can't build it without HTML. Anyway, current browser-based engines are really slow to load and resource-intensive. So they have to, in order to stay performant, games restrict the graphics. So you have, pretty low-quality, low-poly graphics, which is at a cost to creative freedom, and it's a cost also to how people can access it. So, for example, somebody's built on the web and it's kind of mediocre or middle-ish when it comes to quality, you need to have a good laptop to access it. You can't really access it with your mobile browser, which kind of hinders how many people can access it when you share the link through WhatsApp, for example. With things like Unity, you've got the ability to export, so a lot of people are thinking about building metaverses and games on top of Unity. But the problem here is that the code is bloated and it's not optimized for the web. So you need to have a lot more time and a lot more, it just adds the cost to ship a game, basically. And if you want to add GameFi and NFTs, you need to know blockchain coding, which is another barrier to entry. Again, we need to have something where all the users should be able to build content. And people should be, it shouldn't be difficult to build things. Traditional game engines are notoriously difficult, and you need to have formal training to build. And sharing content is just as difficult. If you're a builder, you need to compile the files, then you need to, share those executables somewhere, and then you need to have the people, or you hope people will be able to find those files and then download them. Then they have to install those files just to access it. And obviously, it's quite limited. And again, assets can't be reused within games. That's something that we are really kind of digging down deep into the technology of how to make these metaverse assets that are persistent. So you can have something that you can actually upgrade. So it's not just something you mint as an NFT and then put on decentralized storage, and then they become obsolete later on when they're not compatible with games. We have the ability to make them, upgradable in a decentralized way, and we can come to that later. Or you can feel free to ask questions later on through DMs or wherever. And yeah, just going back to the decentralization aspect, in today's games, imagine the interface, the sky, all the game assets, the things that make up the game, like the trees and stuff, all those things, they're either static on centralized servers, or they're on solutions which eventually might remove the content when storage costs are not covered. So apart from Arweave, the other kind of solutions out there are pretty crappy. So we use Arweave for our solutions. But yeah, our proprietary game engine is built completely from scratch. So everything, all the low-level algorithms, everything is built in-house. And we're specifically targeting, the big problems for the metaverse, such as persistence, interoperability, and creating high-quality dynamic environments that can, be accessed across multiple platforms, and having, infinitely scalable environments with thousands of objects that can appear on the screen in real time and are secured by the blockchain. And we have integrated physics. We've got real-time rendering of major visual effects such as lighting, shadows, ambient occlusion, and so forth. And yeah, it's super efficient and it's fast loading across multiple platforms. I don't want to go into too much of the tech, but it's all based on C++, WebGL, and WebAssembly, and yeah, it's for super immersive games that can be run across multiple platforms. Again, we just want to make it super easy, so you don't need to have any plugins or anything to download. You just start creating on the platform. And again, going back to this, we're building the metaverse's TikTok, basically. So back in the heydays of Flash, people were getting really creative. People were creating all sorts of experiences. You probably saw Vitalik dancing to Badger Badger. Again, that's like a Flash music video that was made back 10 years, 15 years ago. the thing is that people are getting really creative, and again, they're doing that with TikTok, they're doing that with YouTube, and we want to see the same sort of thing happening with gaming and with the metaverse, with 3D. And that's where our technology is coming in. And again, we're going to have a marketplace for all these assets that people build, and even 3D shaders will be exchanged in the marketplace. Again, talking about upgradable assets, I think we've kind of spoken about this, so I don't want to go too much. And again, yeah, we're super open and decentralized. One of the exciting things that we're building is a language for building out the metaverse, basically. But just like the modern web would not exist without HTML, likewise, the metaverse needs a language to structure it, and that's what we are building out. So we've called it JMOM, but yeah, we'll talk more about this later on. But basically, JMOM is a language for building and interacting in real time with the metaverse. And on top of that, you'd have people creating things. On top of that, you could have other languages, for example, JavaScript and other ways to interact. There's lots to go through, and I don't want to spend too much time, so I think right now we might just go in for a demo. So I'm asking Erica, are you ready? Would you be able to kind of demo the stuff?
Sure. Hi everyone. So I guess I'll be sharing my screen. Give me a second. So I'm not sure if you can see my screen.
Yeah, see it. Cool.
Okay, perfect. So you can see an example of one face. This one is actually made using photogrammetry to get a proper 3D model of an actual face. And so it gives you an idea of the amount of detail you can to get straight on the web, proper physics, and having your avatars and all. And that was just a small example to show you, what the space might look like. Now let me show you, how to actually build a space right now. So I'm going to go back to the main website for it.
By the way, even the sun, everything can be programmed, so the lighting, the shadows, everything is real time.
So this is our development website right now, so the interface is not going to be looking like that in the final product, but you get the idea. So you can choose, any kind of spaces. Maybe I can show you one that's already made before. So the idea is everything can load in real time, which is going to be very important if you want to be able to, move from space to space in a smooth manner. And obviously, we also have, we've got you can have all kinds of objects. We've got physics for objects. You can just go around and just, crash the place if you want to. It could be important, not just to help people build stuff, but also for all kind of gameplay. If you want to create, if you want to build inside a space, it's quite easy really. You can just, go through our catalog of 3D models and just drag and drop whatever you need. For example, we've got all kinds of stuff in here. If you want to add a table to space, you can just drag and drop it. If you want to put stuff on top of one another and have like a nice looking, you can have a sofa or, all kind of stuff. You can just, place around. If the object does not have any textures on it, you can just drag and drop all kind of textures on top of it, which will allow people to basically just combine all kind of objects with all kind of textures to make nice looking 3D models. Like I did just now, if you want to have like kind of medieval kind of texture, if you want to have some wood as well, you can just drag and drop wood on it, and then you have wood on the object. You can see here. It's a bit dark, so maybe I'll just some more light to the space. So if you want to add some light to space, okay. Sorry, because I have an issue. Let me load another space so I can show you. and maybe more visible. Just
I don't know that.
still a little bit. We still have to tweak the physics so it does not crash when you have a lot of objects on the screen just interacting with one another. Let me share my screen again. So if you want to create a new space, you can just either select a pre-made one or just select one that's empty and just start drag and dropping all kind of objects in it. As I was saying earlier, you can just drag and drop objects straight from the catalog of 3D models that would be available, or 3D models that would be shared by other users. Or you can just use 3D models you've made yourself or you found somewhere else on the web. That is like, for example, if I want to add a 3D model that's not ready in the pre-made 3D model, you can just go on your computer, select a 3D model. So I'm just going to go on the computer, select a 3D model, and just drag and drop it on the screen. And you can select the level of compression you want for it. It's called then upload it, compress it, convert it, and make it available for you on your own personal catalog of 3D models, and also load it to the screen. So obviously the 3D model selected is a little bit big, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And if the 3D model does not have a physics included in it, then it will add a 3D physics for it. Basically now I have loaded this 3D model inside the scene. I can just add any kind of textures to it. Or once again, if you have your own textures, you can just drag and drop them in the scene and use them any way you want. So for example, if I have a picture on my computer I would like to show inside the engine, I can just drag and drop the file on the screen where I want it to load. So new picture, and once you have chosen a name for it, it will just load it and you'll have it in the space available for you with like a pre-made frame.
I think right. So maybe we can kind of quickly talk more about the node-based game development and things that we have in the future and how we can kind of work with the Loop community. I think that would be probably wise to talk about that sort of stuff now.
Right. So basically, to give you an idea of what a process might look like, we have developed a language that allows you to completely describe the space, to interact with it in all kind of ways, and of course to create some all kind of processes attached to each object. For example, one simple system you might want to add to an object is the ability to add sound that would activate when you get close to it. For example, now when I get close to this object, I'll have some sound playing for it here. And though right now the interface is not ready yet, you can see that the process is described in here. And we'll have like a proper node-based interface where you can just drag and drop all kind of nodes in some specific interface and connect them to create all kind of events, all kind of processes, interaction with objects, like playing animation or activating traps, all kind of stuff. Try to make it as easy as possible through this node-based interface, and people will be able to basically create an object, all kind of textures, or just use an object that's already have textures applied to it. Then create all kind of processes, interactions to embed in the object and save it as an NFT or something that other people will be able to use in their spaces. The idea would be to also be able to connect all kinds of spaces through portals or doors. So people will be able to basically create dungeons, for example, and then connect the dungeons together to create like huge spaces between people will be able to walk around it, play and activate traps, create all kinds of treasures and doors.
So one of the things that the exciting thing is adding lore, adding stories, and integrating those story modes within the spaces and the games. So you could even have like a complete book which people can open and read. All the things that you are familiar with from like MMOs and from other gaming are things that we are looking to bring in. It's really exciting how I think the community could be, a part of this and working on this. And of course, all the assets are going to be, owned by whoever's creating them and owned. So it could be DAO based as well. So it's not, for us, this project is one that's going to ultimately be completely open. So with regards to, the different, the languages that are, for example, we're creating are going to be open source and available. And eventually even the engine itself will be, open source and available as well. So we're looking to kind of create a complete decentralized, I wouldn't say equivalent, but an alternative to using things like Unity or Unreal. But the real kind of secret sauce to what we're doing is creating these open worlds which would be fully scalable and unlimited. And we have some other kind of low-level technologies that we're working on right now that, for example, allowing people to dig, allowing people to mine for stuff in ways that you can't do in other games. It's similar to kind of Minecraft, but without being, bound by the pixel-based nature. But yeah, the idea is you're going to have massively multiplayer, collaborative kind of spaces where hopefully people would kind of translate some of the lore from loot and some of the other kind of assets into a 3D environment and tie them in. And yeah, this is like an open call. We can share. So if you go to keepengine.com, we've got a link in community that is to our Discord. So feel free to join. And yeah, I think it'll be like a community-based movement to help create, some that would tie in with the loot community. So yeah, we're just super excited to be part of this. I think loot stands out from a lot of the other NFT projects in terms of, Tim did a really great introduction, so there's no need for me to repeat. But yeah, it's open and it's really exciting what can come out of, just everybody collaborating and building things. So if somebody has good skills with 3D assets, you could, create anything basically and tie it into the loot, to the Lootverse and see where you can go. You can create your own stories, your own laws. So here, Erica just dragged and dropped a 3D shader, which is of lava. So that's another thing, like so powerful what we're building right now, and the types of things that you can come up with. There's no limit to it. And of course, these spaces you'd be able to load them up in your browser on your Oculus, and you can still experience this in complete 3D. The interface changes based on what device you're on. So, for example, if you're on your laptop, obviously use your mouse, but on Oculus, you can just kind of roam free and use your hands. It's really, even a normal room, a 3D room with just some basic objects is really fun just to throw things around. I just had amazing fun doing that. But yeah, over the next few months, our roadmap looks like as we're building out these spaces, we'll be launching later on this month. We'll be part of the London Hacker House. So we're working on integrating Solana-based NFTs. And yeah, our future roadmap, we just want to start creating these indie games, working with people. Don't have to be game developers to build on this. Yeah, and I think I'll kind of wind up there. Erica, do you have any other kind of final thoughts?
Not really. I just wanted to say that we've also been working on the avatar system. The idea is like based on the language we have developed for describing 3D spaces and basically the metaverses now. We've also been working on the avatar system because what ideally people would want to do is to be able to basically choose the dimension of their characters, and be able to wear all kind of equipment, add all kind of attributes. Well, we are trying to use our language to describe as robustly as possible and at the same time as extensively as possible the way avatars could work. Also, the crafting, how the crafting could work in the metaverse where resources are limited, where people would have to, develop skills in order to create all kind of stuff. So yeah, basically we're trying to, study the RPG, the Dungeon and Dragon kind of, this looting system on a more technical point of view and seeing how we can make it work in the metaverse.
I mean, if there are anybody within the community who are game designers who have any other ideas on how they can use the engine for creating any new experiences within Loot, then feel free to speak with us, and we'll help you out, and we can find a way of kind of creating some cool stuff. But yeah, feel free to add yourselves to our Discord. We just created it recently, so we're really excited to launch soon. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions on this to ask?
This is great stuff. Thank you for sharing. I'd say pop into stay in the Loot Discord. Obviously, you guys are excited about the energy that's happening here, and follow along, participate, sort of get weaved into the community and what's happening here. And I think you'll be able to weave the strategy of this thing you're building into this crazy experiment.
I got a question. So I don't know what kind of computer you need to render this stuff, but is there also is it possible to use like server-side rendering?
So if I may answer this question, it basically works on phone. So we're trying to make sure that the system is as, we are working with WebAssembly, with WebGL2, we are working everything from the base up to have, maximum, performances, and to also allow, to have as high quality of a render as possible. When it comes to, server-side rendering, we are interested in this kind of thing, but the thing is, a lot of people, it's very expensive, basically. So it's very hard to make, business model work around it. Also, it's my point of view, but it kind of goes away against the idea of decentralization. We're trying to, basically spread out the computing of the metaverses, of, everything on as many computers as possible. And, the rendering is the one single thing that's especially easy to decentralize in a way, because each computer is capable of doing rendering. And you don't really need to have, communication between all the computers in order to do the rendering. So this is one of the easiest things to decentralize. So I guess it would be kind of a shame to centralize it when it's the single thing that's so easy to centralize. But in the future, we may consider also offering support for back-end rendering.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. I like your tie-in with the decentralization aspect. Thanks for your answer.
Welcome. Any other questions? If you have any questions, just don't hesitate to ask us. If it's a technical one, I can also help you with this kind of stuff. So. But I guess I'm done here.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome, thank you both. Let's see who we got next here. Stellaris, are you still here?
Yeah. Just keep things short, yeah? So today we are officially launching our website. It's more of an informational website, and I wanted to kind of recap about what we're building, what we're doing since we have been more or less a little quiet. Just building, right? So I will share my screen to show you guys what. So basically, I just scroll through the website, just kind of briefly explain everything. Since we've already done a kind of presentation, I also have to run off pretty soon, so I will keep things as short as possible. Alright. So yeah, Dan, why don't you drop the website link in general as well? and our Twitter as well, so that anyone new can actually come by. So usually this website is kind of under maintenance right now, but this I felt like we should get. I felt like we should get kind of informational website up. So basically, to recap, what we're building is a campaign builder. It's not exactly like a game engine, something like that. More like something similar to Terraria or Minecraft in functionality, but something also more similar to Roll20 or Foundry VTD, basically a virtual tabletop, but not exactly. So the difference would be that we would have tile assets, we would have different asset game rules, so it would function more or less like a top-down RPG, or even the platformer RPG if you want to play, build those things on it. And instead of being like a game engine or something, we are kind of thinking of making this a primitive. We're building this on Unity, so we will make it open source. We will make it open source after launch, so anyone could just pretty much go about doing anything with it. And the first thing we have is the game client. With you as the player will get on and play games that other people have built or that other people create. So you can create, I don't know, single player experiences like virtual novels, so you can actually use it like a board with token, just play 5e D&D and so on. And you could also, so yeah, these are what our NFTs are gonna be like. They're not exactly like an ordinary character or PFP NFT. So more like you would have three heart icons, 3 gold icons, a damage value that determined by like a roll of dice, grayscale clothes and armor class and some spell slots, later skills, and this I think would be the biggest selling point actually of our NFTs. So basically, instead of actually attributing these values to different roles or different status attributes, what we have done is that we will generate random values between 3 and 18. So basically the same way D&D stats are calculated, where you roll 4 6-sided dice and then subtract the lowest number. So instead of doing that, we're just going to generate 3 random values between 3 and 18, and you can actually attribute them to whatever attribute you want. You can actually attribute them to just about any attribute you want. So in game, you could even change attributes for more homebrew gameplay. Or you could have 5e stats like dexterity, strength, and intelligence, and so on and so forth. And it's the same principle with SP and gold and armor class and spells. So you can actually, if you're a game master or if you're a game builder, you can actually set different multipliers for the SP value or the gold values or the armor values, and that will be the players starting SP, starting gold, and starting armor class, and so on. And then the other thing, the customizability aspect comes in from like a grayscale clothes, so you can actually colorize them in game to whatever you like. And the important thing to remember here is that the game, this isn't like an access token or whatever. It's more like the game is free to play, so anyone can actually play, join in and play. And the main thing that would bring it to Web3 is that you could actually use different NFTs that you own, add assets within the game system. So you could actually tether different loot assets or even Hyperverse assets. You can actually customize the what it would look like. So you can actually upload a spreadsheet or a tile map, and you can actually just pretty much use it in your experiences, right? So more of this is explained here. And then the other thing is that we are defining the race, the class, the moral alignment, the background, whatever. So you could end up with stuff like this, yeah. So you could actually decide what race it is depending on what you get. So this could be like an elf angle, this could be like a demonic goblin, or you could even call this like an undead orc or whatever. So it would just depend on what you set it to. Same goes for the classes as well, but I think we're gonna stick to a certain number of classes so that the whole game system doesn't get too convoluted. And most of these are open to interpretation. You can even use them outside of the in-game ecosystem. And the selling point of these NFTs is not that they are art distortion or whatever, but they are more like Generation 0 characters you can use in the tabletop DAO, which will function as like a community board for approvals, for maintenance, for management at launch, so that it wouldn't be so centralized. It would actually be decentralized. We could do like a management handover after launch, and then there'd also be exclusive community access, different benefits like rewards and community merge and raffles and stuff, and then playtesting as well. The holders of these NFTs could actually participate in closed beta testing and bug bounties and so on. And we've also done a kind of progress tracker / roadmap kind of thing. So basically, this actually let you see what we are currently working on and how far we have come in finishing these things. So basically, I feel like it would be a lot easier for people to actually figure out where we are, rather than like having a linear roadmap. So, and the other thing is we're also building a kind of AI D&D based on like a GPT-3 AI model, and we could initially we're going to test them out using on Discord, and in order to host it, we are going to use something like Vast AI. It's probably gonna be a paid thing, so that is probably where our application for the Gitcoin grant thing will come into. And I think that is it. We will also experiment around with soulbounds and stuff, and I could actually show you like a bit of what we are sort of working on as well, and pretty much this is basically what the in-game stuff would look like, and this is just something for the mint. This is something for the minting side that I'm working on. I believe minting would be around late June or July. I'm sure. We'll decide and let you guys know. So basically, this is pretty much how it would look like, and this is actually part of the tile set that you would have to do, and you could actually use them to craft games however you want, and that would pretty much be it actually. Thank you for listening. Thank you for chiming in. If you have any questions, just let me know. Let me know. Just DM me or whatever. And that's it. Yeah. All right.
Thanks for sharing. We can feel your energy. I know you're so excited to get people engaged and playing and building with you. It's super cool. Andrew, did we have more people on the slate today, or should we call it?
Yeah, standard combos on there. 1337 as well. If you do want to share, we're at about an hour and a half right now.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Yeah, I'd love to go next. I'm happy to be here. I'm standard combo, and I have a couple things to show. First, if I could get everyone's attention to the general chat, I would like to have like a final round of voting for the More Loot icon. I really think the More Loot collection should have an icon, and these are the two from last week. 2 weeks ago, we had a discussion about this, and some people voted on. And these are the two remaining ones. The M Loot was one of the ones people suggested and really liked, and then the More Loot was the one that won the last vote. So if everyone could go into that straw poll and give your opinion, which one you like the most, and I hope we can choose an icon for the More Loot collection. I know I could really use it in my user interfaces, as I'm going to show in a minute. I am integrating with a lot of these collections in my project, and that's the next thing I want to show. So why don't I just jump straight into that? Share my screen. Okay, so the main thing I wanted to talk about and I wanted to introduce is the idea of what I was first calling the Lootverse MMO, but because we're using Lootverse more as a general term for all the projects, I didn't want to appropriate that, and I think actually Loot MMO, just Loot MMO is an easier name, and actually the URL is available for that, so I think that's what I'm going to call it. So this is something I've been working on for several months now, and this is more than a game. I can get into more detail about that. But these are my 5 more loot bags, and right now I'm just in 3D, I'm just doing the weapon. Armor is something that I've been researching as well, and I have technically validated how armor can work in this system, but I have the weapons so far. Let's go with this one. This one's pretty cool. And we're also building social space. So this is kind of iteration 2 of the social space. It's not ready yet. Some of the art from the community in here. We're building a new version. It's a little cozier. This one feels more like a library, and so my team's working on another version of that. And here I wanted to show one of the integrations. So this is the crypt that I own. I own two crypts, and this is one of the ones, the Sunken Labyrinth. And so procedurally generating this 3D version by parsing the SVG data from the NFT. And these are some of the other ones that I added to the list that I'm parsing, but this one I own, so I would get like a bonus XP or some other way of showing utility for the collections. So other collections that I've integrated with are obviously the original Loot, More Loot, Genesis Adventures, and those would be used for like the character selection screen, where we were at the start. And I don't want to jump into the play because I would like for next week to do a larger presentation and bring my team in and do the full demo. Right here, I just wanted to kind of present the idea, Loot MMO, show some of the stuff, kind of give an outline of the project. So this project kind of has 3 big components. One is the social space, the social hub, and through these doors we can connect lots of adventures and things like that. Like we have here on the table, we have the crypts, but we can on the library and the books, we can have some interactable experiences you travel to. Through here we have like a tavern. This is an example of the type of thing that we can connect through the doors, and then people can make their own, and we can add them. And then the second component is it's more of a framework. It's not a game. It's has the social hub, but it is an open source framework of gameplay components that people can come in and assemble and build whatever they want. You want to build, the mist opening up and showing the stairs. You can do that, or out in the forest, or in a dungeon, or whatever, I can show some of the other environment that I've been researching for this. This is something I built. Started as a lighting exercise, but I did want to show this because I think this environment shows the productivity of the tool chain that my team has created. And this is something that I built in less than a day, in just a few hours. And I'm not a traditional, or I like to think of myself as an artist, but if I were to build this in Unreal or in Unity, I couldn't do it in less than a day. It would take me forever to do. But with the tool chain that we created, I was able to put this together in just a few hours, and it looks great. And I could easily add interactive things here. Just drop in the weapons, drop in enemies, and drop in treasures that I can open and stuff like that. So the framework will have all these types of pieces, enemies, loot, inventory, progression, all kinds of stuff like that. And to give an idea of the variety of it, show this final scene that has some of the outdoor. This is a scene that is still work in progress. One of our artists put together. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. I think the third component would be how the third component of the project is how the community connects with this, and that would be through game jams. So we've run many game jams already for different things. We've done a Dungeons and Dragons partnership. We've done Dead Mouse partnership and built one of his music trailers. Lots of stuff like that, and we give prizes, and we organize the judging process and things like that. So I think for Loot, and I'm really happy about the funding opportunity. Thanks, Tim Shaw, for organizing that. That's the perfect opportunity for us. We're writing our proposal, and we would like to take those funds. We don't need the funds for building this. It's already built. I just need to finalize the framework, and it would take me maybe a month to finish this. But the funds would go to the community. We would take that and just put it right back to the community, and as rewards for the game jams. So the game jams can prompt people to build different categories, like a dungeon category or an outdoors category. I don't know what else we can discuss, what different categories people would like. That can be community driven as well, how the categories would be organized. But that would be where the funds would go, right? Does that make sense? That we would do one or two game jams, depends on how much we can raise in the round. And yeah, I think this is also a way to bring other devs into Lootverse, is people from the indie scene, from the core community at large, people really talented whose job is to do this stuff, to build these experiences. We can bring those people to the Lootverse in these game jams to build these experiences, which we would then connect in the social hub, in those doors, and do content events where we promote a specific map that someone built, and we can have every other week event like that. Does that make sense? Happy to answer any questions. But like I said, next week I would like to bring my team and do a more full experience, show the combat, show the enemies, some of the items, and also some of the other projects we're working with in the Web3 space. We're doing work with Metaverse, Neo Tokyo, things like that. So we have some scenes from those other projects as well. I think it's a good way to demonstrate the utility of the type of thing we're building, and that can prompt ideas that we can do in the Lootverse as well. Yeah, that's Loot MMO.
Amazing. I love the 360 on the what was that, a bear, a wolf?
Yeah, that's a wolf. Wolf, right? There's lots of different mounts. There's horses, skateboards, weird stuff from Dead Mouse universe. It's a car with legs, all kinds of mounts.
Oh, it's super cool. Thanks for sharing and blowing our minds every week. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more from your team and kind of getting the bigger picture. Super cool.
Yeah, standard combo. Are you kidding me? This is incredible.
Thanks.
So this thing.
To put this into perspective, we've been working on this for 5 years, so I think that can kind of give you an idea of where it's coming from, because this is 5 years and a really experienced team. Like, I think the average time in the game industry in our studio is 12 years, and we've been doing this for 5, so I think it was 12 before we started, so now it's 17.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're so happy to have you in the Lootverse, obviously. Should we look at that poll?
Yeah.
It was close.
You have such range, standard combo, from extremely high fidelity to extremely low fidelity.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm also a professional ASCII artist.
There you go.
Yeah, you can't get much more low fidelity than ASCII art. Yeah, this is super close. I'd be down to even letting, like, Dom be the tiebreaker or something, you know?
Yeah, 4-3 with Maloot.
Nice. That sounds like a good plan.
In the lead. All right, cool. Did we have anyone else that wanted to share today? We're at an hour and 43 minutes. People are dropping off.
Uh, 1337 wanted to hop in, but says his mic is disabled.
Let's see.
That's on our side. Hold on. Try now. There you go. Now we got you.
GM guys.
Hey GM.
Sorry, I saw that Loot Town Square will be tomorrow, so I a little bit confused. I want to present a project, the Minstrels. We are working on Creative Commons music themes for the Loot Orders. We prepared 3 soundtracks and want to present them today. I will share my screen. First soundtrack for Order of Enlightenment. Do you hear sound?
I don't hear it.
Yeah, we don't hear it, though. I'm so excited to hear it. Yeah, you got me on the edge of my seat. You can post your files in that music channel, too. The Bards and Music channel.
1 second.
Okay.
I will be grateful if someone could play them on stream. I don't know how to.
You guys hear this?
Yeah.
Beautiful. That was enlightenment. Let me do protection since rage is still in progress, and then yeah, super cool. Wow, I am fired up.
Am I in a cinema or something?
Amazing. 1330. So what's the so what is kind of the bigger picture with Minstrel?
Picture. What do you mean?
I mean, yeah, like what inspired you to create these? Like, how do you see them being used?
Sorry, I little confused. Don't understand. I introduced Lootverse to my friend, who professional musician, and he was very inspired with all things going on, and I show him Hyperloot, Realms, and different art. So he was very inspired, and we started working on these soundtracks.
Amazing. Well, they're so good. So good.
So let's play Rage Order.
All right. If we don't have anyone else, maybe Rage. We're almost at 2 hours. Maybe Rage Order can be our closing music and take us through the rest of this call. What do people think?
There's one little thing actually, which is actually also one other musical thing, which is a buddy of mine, Pumpkin, has more CCO music that he's brought. So I don't know if we might not have time to listen to it, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Pumpkin. You can probably link it in the Bards and Music chat. I love how the music ecosystem in Loot is like really blossoming lately. So, whoa! Happy to listen to Rage Order. Let's do it.
So good, the season of Loot music.
Yes. All right. I'm going to play Rage, and it's going to take us out and finish up this call. Ooh,
Yeah, thank you.
love the thunderstorm. Awesome.
I vote we listen to Pumpkin's music. If Pumpkin's got something here, we've only got a few of us left. I want to hear it.
Yeah, let's do it.
And get it into the recording forever, too. Pumpkin, do you want to share a MP3 link or whatever else you got?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the link right now. It might take me a few minutes, so maybe I'll just post it in general. I don't want to hold you guys up. Let's see. Actually, I almost have it here. All right. As a Google Drive link I posted.
Alright. Let me play it. Let's see if it works here. Does everybody hear it? That's it.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Man, you guys inspire me. This stuff is so cool. Who else has music? Tim Shell, do you have a song you can sing us?
Just go off the cuff.
No, Pumpkin, that's awesome. It's cool to see some arrangements being made out of the CCO surface area. So, yeah, I'm really excited about that. Thank you for that.
Thanks for the inspiration. That's your theme, your title theme there.
Our theme. Mwah.
Our creation, yes.
Did you write? Did one of you write it in one perform, or did you?
I put that one out as just one of the themes that people can like build off of.
Okay.
And then getting derived from it. I think that's the good strategy is like that whole improv thing, like the yes and. So when someone like establishes a theme, the better thing to do to have a cohesive vision is to have the next musician like incorporate it and like remix it and stuff. So
Awesome.
we're all kind of dealing with the same thematic material.
Very cool.
Wow, what a banger today. 2 hours of loot and such a diverse set of discussions and demos and things going on. It's pretty incredible. I think let's call it, Andrew.
Yeah, let's call it. Amazing stuff. Thanks, everyone.